Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Jonathan Adler.
And I'm Simon Doonan.
Welcome to our home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
That is Simon Doonan, and he is a legend. He was the creative director and legendary window dresser of Barney's. Now he's just published his 10th book. He's a brilliant writer and cultural commentator and infuriatingly cute and productive, and he's my husband of 30 years.
That is Jonathan Adler. Yes, Jonathan Adler, ceramics, textiles, carpets, furniture, amazing, glamorous, over-the-top gorgeousness for 30 years. That's how long we've been together.
And I'm a homemaker.
You are?
So we are in our house on the north end of Palm Beach. It was built in 1940, and it was done by a very famous Palm Beach architect called Maurice Fatio.
It's sort of like a regal little dollhouse, and by Palm Beach standards, it's a dollhouse.
It was during the Pandy, and we had come down here and we were staying with a friend, and we thought we need to buy a place in Palm Beach. And we'd walked by this house, and when we were just kind of walking up and down streets, and we're like, that is a dream house. Wouldn't it be amazing if someday we lived in a house like that? And then I was at home in New York, kind of perusing real estate listings, and I saw that this house was for sale. We weren't there. I asked my best friend Liz to go look at it, and she's like, it's magical. And we placed an offer and had an accepted deal at 5 o'clock that day. So it's a house we'd never been in. We had merely seen it from outside and thought that is the cutest, best house in Palm Beach. And by 5 o'clock one day, it was ours. It's really quite odd. How would you describe the style?
I guess it's
almost like the White House. Like it has like a little, it's like a teeny tiny.
It's a dinky version of the White House, which is good because we're dinky.
Yeah.
We're both, and so's Foxy. So yeah.
There's something theatrical about it.
It's something slightly camp, that's why I always think of a dollhouse. But a dollhouse that's like meant to look a bit grand with the columns out the front and everything. But as I say, by Palm Beach standards, it's actually quite modest, which
but there
is
is
hilarious.
Yeah, but I think there is something very camp about it because it has this sort of sense of exaggeration. Which is really fun, and so it almost feels like a folly, I think, it's kind of a fun way to think about it. And I think we sort of think of it as a folly.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous little white folly, and I think you sort of recontextualized it. So instead of trying to make it everything very 40s, you plonked it into sort of the 60s, the 70s, like there's definitely a mid-century vibration, especially the outside.
Interior design is a funny thing. I always think that an interior should almost be like a slimming mirror. It should reflect the occupants as they are, but at their most glamorous. I hope the house is in some way a portrait of us, good, bad, or other. I think probably like us, not everyone will love it, but some people will. And I think it's really authentic to who we are. I think you have sort of a sense of color, and you sort of came of age during the glam-rock era, and I make a ton
Swinging 60s.
Swinging 60s. I make a ton of stuff, and I needed a place where I could bring all the stuff I make into our worlds, and it would kind of make sense. And
I think many people, when they decorate a house, they're thinking about what the neighbors will think, what their best friends will think, what the blah, blah, blah. We don't think about what anybody will think. We just think about what we'll think.
We really wanted a place that just kind of felt really, it might not look it on camera. I don't know how it looks on camera, but it feels quite
very comfortable,
cash and comfy, and we can have a dinner party for 12 and people can kind of sit in little clusters, and it just feels like kind of loose and casual, and that was important. And we're back and forth to the beach like all day long, so it has an indoor-outdoor vibe.
Sarongs, huge hats, glasses, and that's just Foxy.
Yeah, glasses. Yep. Oh, Foxy. And we are dogs on every surface.
I do think
obviously.
the older you get, the larger your sunglasses should get.
I
It's
think
like,
even bigger.
Yeah. So by the time you die, they're just like huge windshields on top of your head. Johnny and I were introduced on a blind date 30 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, actually, it'll be the anniversary of our meeting is this Friday. It'll be 30 years this Friday.
Eek.
Yikes. But they've been 30 incredible years. Like, we have built a life and a world together, and there have been many, many chapters, and this is Palm Beach is kind of our latest and maybe greatest chapter. We got set up on a blind date, and at the time I was like a struggling potter, and I was selling my pots at Barney's, but I was like broke and just working 24/7, making mugs all day. And Simon was sort of a legend, so he was a very, very famous celebutant. And I was like, he was a little older. I thought he would be sort of an effete, snobby British fashion person. And at the time, I appeared to be kind of gritty and bohemian. Not so true, but we seemed quite different. But my friend was like, no, I think you'll get along. So I sort of went to the blind date, and there he was.
Yes, and I remember the blind date very well. I was in a suit, actually pinstripe suit, I think Romeo Gigli, if I remember correctly, and Johnny rollerbladed into the restaurant. He was
the
rollerblading all over town with an Invicta backpack and a Lacoste shirt and spattered in clay, everything, face, hands, clothes. So, but I was very charmed, and he was very interesting and lively and impressive. Somebody actually making or beginning to make a living from doing pottery.
And the funny thing is, I think when I met Simon, I thought he was this very like buttoned up executive who was incredibly bourgeois and proper. And I think he probably thought that I was extremely bohemian because I was a clay spattered potter. And then cut to, it is a total bait and switch. Simon, I think, has the most bohemian spirit of anyone I've ever met in my life. And I am embarrassingly conventional in many ways. So it was a bait and switch, and I guess that's how many people are. But we've kind of rolled with it and maybe met in the middle-ish.
I think so.
Welcome to the living room. One of my favorite things is that the first thing you see when you walk in is this incredible painting by Jeff McFetteridge. And it's a very haunting painting because the woman in the painting is lifting her skirt and you'll never know what's behind it. So I think it's sort of a very like meta, trippy image, and it sort of sets the tone. In this room and in the house in general, you'll see that the walls all have kind of just a very pale color, some pale, some not so pale, but it kind of creates this like glowy vibe. We painted all the floors white. The whole thing gives kind of like a mod, somewhat trippy and surreal feel. And then it's just kind of full of some of my favorite things. This is this great vintage Odumene split reed cabinet, and I retrofitted it with painted glass bits on the doors and a painted glass top, so it really captures the vibe. Colorful but coastal at the same time. These are these great vintage glass heads that I've always had and loved. Simon's always had and loved. These lamps are by moi. I do a lot of figural stuff in my work as a potter, and when I first started, I used to do a lot of very geometric pieces. And as I sort of moved into figural things, I kind of took the idea of taking body parts and just repeating them as geometry, and you'll see that a lot in my stuff. So in the corner, first of all, I think pedestals are every decorator's secret weapon. Never forget the power of a pedestal. This is one of my stainless steel pedestals with one of my vases, and instead of flowers, why not try ostrich feathers? Trippy and surreal. A fab painting that I love. And then in this room, it's mostly my furniture, c'est moi. This is this really groovy screen that I found at the Paris flea market. And it's kind of just, it just captures the colors of this room. And it's forever. These are my 2 chairs called Maurice chairs, and I kind of just flipped the upholstery, which I think is always a great trick. So in this, it's black with a white seat, and that one's white with a black seat. The fireplace doesn't work, so I put my giant brass amoeba sculpture in the fireplace. More me. This is this fantastic mirror that a friend of Simon's made. We've had it for 30 years. And what I love about it is that it takes the idea of a traditional starburst mirror and kind of flips it on its head. And these pieces are just simple 2x4s. So it's kind of a high-low moment, and I never say no to a high-low moment. And then this is this nifty thing. Our friend Ruben Toledo wrote a very lovely note to us, and he always illustrates things, and so we just hung it up on the fireplace. Super cute. Oh, the jars are by yours truly. Yeah, they have kind of a weird origin story and inspiration. I kind of wanted to take the idea of Delft ceramics, which is the Dutch blue painted ceramics that were always very traditional, and kind of twist it on its head. And so I did these sort of surreal dreamscapes in tones of blue that are kind of an homage to the idea of surrealism, really, and and psychedelics. One of my absolute favorite things on earth is this eye lamp by the French 60s and 70s surrealist kind of conceptual artist called Nicolas L. I absolutely love it. I think it might be my favorite thing in the entire house. And then you'll see a lot of suns in the house. This little nifty sun lamp is a piece that I made. It's from my pottery studio. So I did some custom individual pieces in the house, whereas mostly I kind of just make prototypes, but this is from my studio. And then I love this acrylic shark that I made. I feel so weird just saying how much I love everything I made, but I do. And he's really great because he sits right in front of a window and is illuminated, and I think the shark lives exactly where that shark should live. It kind of catches the light. It's giving me Palm Beach vibes, and I'm really proud of that. You'll see a lot of beaded art and pillows and stuff around, so that's everywhere. Monsieur Dog wearing his hats, where, sun protection is everything in Floride. And then more suns from my studio. We'll go upstairs later, but now let me take you into our dining room cum library. This room is, I guess, technically the dining room. And if we're eating inside, we do pull up chairs here, but we kind of treated it as like a library pass-through space. I sit on my trippy cloud sofa with hand-beaded mushroom pillows, obs, and read here a lot. It's kind of dreamy and floaty. I found these fantastic bamboo palm trees in Paris. And I think my favorite thing in this room is, I said to Simon, oh, you know what we should do just for a laugh? We should have portraits of ourselves done, because why not? And he said, well, why don't you do them in beaded art? And so they are, one portrait, tchotchkes, is a portrait of me, because I make tchotchkes for a living. And the other portrait says schmatas, because Simon came up in the rag trade, and they are both Yiddish words. And I think, I like the idea of kind of playing with, like, again, high-low, like the idea of having portraits of yourself is very pompous, obs. But then, kind of taking the piss by Yiddish words explaining what we do. I just think they look really cool, and they capture exactly who we are. If you follow moi, you'll come into like where it all happens, the TV room. So this is like this sunroom. It's where we watch television. I think one of the things that's cool about this house in general, we didn't want to have like heavy curtains because it's meant to feel light and beachy. So we did leveler blinds everywhere. So you'll see them here in the sunroom and wherever we need coverage. But this room is just super chill, cash. This room, as you can see, is Tiffany blue. And it's a bold color choice. It doesn't feel jarring to me at all, but the rooms down here, it goes from kind of a mint Prada green to like a slightly bluer green and then a much bluer blue. So as you kind of go through the sequence of rooms, there is a logic behind the color choice. But this room, I think, is just really strong, sharp color. And that is determined by Florida. Honestly, there's something about Florida that's like, nothing can be bold and colorful enough. It's the light, it's the vibe, like I just want more. And then I think what's so nice about this room is that the architecture and the materials are beautiful. We have like a Pecky cypress ceiling that is fantastic. And the Tiffany blue paint just works perfectly. And then, kind of every bit and corner is filled with things that I either made and or love. The purple chairs, I think, are really extraordinary. They're my Riviera chairs, super comfy. And then I had these purple linen covers hand beaded in India there's this guy I work with, an artisan in India, who like literally sees the world in beads. I don't know how else to explain it other than that. He is a brilliant artisan, and he just kind of, you'll see all these beaded things, and he takes my designs and takes them to 11 with his artistry and majesties. These are my Riviera lamps, and Simon said, you know what, the shades look a bit dull, so he just took them outside and splattered the shades to crank them up to 11. The television's everything. This is like a little thrift store thingy I found. It's like a styrofoam $1 thing painted silver. This is this groovy table Simon has had forever. A hand-thrown lamp that I designed from I work with a pottery studio in Peru where artisans hand throw things. So this is this massive lamp, hand-thrown in groggy black stoneware, painted with white polka dots, and it's really great. And these are my brand new brass flowers. You'll notice I have like feathers in vases and flowers in vases. They last forever, and they're really cool. The Pedro Friedeberg chair, we have a pair of these. There's another one upstairs. And Pedro Friedeberg is another one of my all-time favorite artists. And I'm so happy to own these surreal, trippy, and iconic chairs. So I think, you just throw in a Pedro Friedeberg chair and you can't go wrong with it. And I love, gold with Tiffany blue. Hanging chairs always and everywhere, always and everywhere. Like, a house is not a home without a hanging chair. And then on on the console next to the telly, there's a collection of acrylic pills that I make. So the acrylic pills, I make these are part of my collection, and I just think that your home's decor and the accessories that you surround yourself with should make you seem much more interesting and much more louche than you actually are. Like, Simon and I are basically straight edge. We are the two most clean living, boring, ascetic people you will ever meet, or be lucky enough not to meet, because we would probably bore you to death. However, if you were to come into our house, you would think you were in the home of two louche, subversive, provocative hedonists. Not true, but I think the pills capture the vibe. So on our coffee table are these really cool things. I call them Oscar bowls. I hand make the models in my studio in New York, and they're brass bowls inspired by the architecture of Oscar Niemeyer, who did Brasilia, and I kind of wanted them to feel almost like jewelry settings, and they're sort of like cocktail rings for my cocktail table, and I am madly in love with them. As I am with all the stuff I make, I must stop saying that, but I can't help it. An Aldo Toro bar, is a must in every home, I always say, said the boy from New Jersey. But I do love an Aldo Toro lacquered goat skin bar. I love this little trippy bit of 60s surrealist painting. And I love these two little bird bowls I made. They're sterling silver, and they kind of are like lovebirds, and they're just very, very sweet, as well as having beautiful lines. So the kitchen. It was kind of just a big white suburban kitchen with these fantastic pecky cypress ceilings. And in keeping with the spirit of the house, I wanted it to be colorful. So we painted it this deep, rich blue, and I made these kind of surreal giant acrylic bowls. So this is where we keep fruit and veg. And it's just kind of surreal blue with hits of color. And behind me, Simon wanted a kitchen nook that reminded him of England. So we kind of created, like, I guess we kind of call it the Carnaby kitchen. And we just took these vintage tea towels from England and framed them. So it's kind of like a nod to England. A baronial brass hanging shandy that I make, that I'm mad for. And then, because it's supposed to be English, we had our friend John Paul Philippe, the painter who's done a lot of stuff in the house. We said, take this old bamboo chinoiserie tortoise cabinet and back paint the glass with English-inspired motifs, as one does. And then it is all sort of ruled over by this vintage 60s Italian ceramic king. And yeah, it's just kind of red, white, and blue, English, groovy, 60s swinging, Carnaby, cool kitchen. You know, living with a Brit, as I have for a long time, I've become really pretentious. Kind of like when Madonna lived in England and got an English accent. And so now I find myself using English words and sayings casually and effortlessly, and probably embarrassingly. So, you know, I call it brekkie for breakfast, and instead of a cup of tea, it's a cuppa. So I'm Madonna. We were in Guatemala, and we're in some souvenir shop, and there was kind of like this dusty dead stock section, and these were like really old little Guatemalan souvenirs, and we found them, we bought all of them, and I love looking at them as I do the dishes because I am a homemaker. This little nook is, I sit here and kind of read and do my emails, and my idea for this beaded artwork was to kind of take like this Renaissance lady and kind of flip her. So, you know, you'll see it's divided in half, and her background is here with just her in silhouette there, and then there is the Renaissance lady. And again, that's done by this artisan in India who sees the world in beads, and his skill and artistry blows my mind. It's so extraordinary. I'm so lucky to get to work with him.
Come in. Welcome to my office. And this is where I do all my writing. And I'm very lucky because not many people get a second career. I had my career window dressing, art directing, retail, fashion. And then in my late 40s, I pivoted and I began writing. I've written 10 books. I've done hundreds of newspaper columns. So I'm very lucky to have had a second career of writing. And this is where it all happens. So yes, my books. This is one of my best-selling ones, The History of Drag. The proceeds benefit the Ali Forney Center. History of Drag going back to ancient China, ancient Egypt. New book, The Camp 100. All about the history of camp. Glorious flamboyance from Louis XIV to Lil Nas X. Camp. The poster in it meaning something or other. All right. So this is a needlepoint that my mother did. It's Liz Taylor by Andy Warhol by Betty Doonan, my mother. So she needlepointed that. It's kind of fabulous. Roxanne Lowett's portrait of Holston. Roxanne Lowett, R.I.P., major photographer in New York City. And she gave me that print and I treasure it. So this is my little office where I try and keep my creative juices flowing and stay active and an active senior. Once in a while, one becomes terribly fatigued from writing, so I lay down or just pose on here and have a little resty poo. I don't even know why these are here. These are Saint Laurent, men. I know, men. It's very Kurt Cobain, right?
I think probably one of the most kind of ironic and funny and strange things about us being here in Palm Beach is that neither of us was born into Palm Beach richesse at all. We've both had sort of very improbable and delightful journeys only in America.
Yeah. I mean, I was born after the war in England. We lived in a really tiny flat. My parents, my sister and I, no kitchen and bathroom. I mean, it was just very different landscape back then. So yeah, I've come a long way, but through work and resilience. Resilience is very important. Not to get discouraged, keep going, stick-to-itiveness. I was at Barney's for 35 years. So
yeah, I think what Simon's not. I mean, Simon's childhood, as I understand it, was almost like out of a Dickens novel. Like his parents met in a soup kitchen after World War II, and they lived in a rooming house with his lobotomized schizophrenic grandmother, his schizophrenic uncle, his blind aunt, and they had no money. And you can read all about it in his sizzling comic memoir, Beautiful People, which is such a brilliant book. I reread it like once a year. It's incredible. But, he kind of grew up in post-war poverty. Would you say that's fair enough?
Oh, yeah. But it was rough for everybody back then. So we weren't singled out for special treatment.
Right.
And my parents both fought in the World War II. They were in the Royal Air Force. My dad, when he was 16, joined the Royal Air Force. And so, they were the great generation, very different, no complaining.
But not so Palm Beachy.
Not so Palm Beachy. But my mom loved glamour and luxury. She used to love the movies, and she was very much focused on making the most of her appearance all the time. Even when she was working 3 jobs, I never saw her without hair and makeup and all done. And she wore a long line girdle, even though she was skinny. That's how people, because for her that was very life affirming, to present yourself a certain way. And if you think about it, when people get depressed, their environment and their appearance are the first thing to go. So keeping a fab, glamorous home and pulling your look together is very life affirming and very positive.
Yeah, and I grew up in a tiny farm town in southern New Jersey, very, very small, very rural, and, not so Palm Beachy. And I fell in love with pottery at summer camp when I was 12. And in my tiny farm town, in the basement of our house, we kind of lived in a groovy modern house. And in the basement, I'd set up a pottery studio, and I spent my entire adolescence just making pots at home, and always wanted to be a potter, but never thought that I could be a potter and a Palm Beacher. But cut to moi now, only in America. Like, it's kind of incredible. The Clouds by Remo Saraceni are kind of the signature move of the staircase, and the giant acrylic mushrooms and the trippy multi-patterned rug. If Simon gets a little tired, he can just have a little perch on the mushroom. Much needed. And then the magic of the upstairs happens.
Come into my closet. I'm back in the closet. So here are my basic 3 looks. I like a flowery shirt, very mod, very 60s. I love Western, fringes, cowboy shirts. And these are some sort of random gems from my Barney's era, when I got a nice discount on designer purchases. Gucci, Saint Laurent, more Western. This is a groovy Western shirt by an American company called Rourke. Tough as nails, great label. So I had to have that, it's genius. And then I have a killer selection of Saint Laurent sneakers, which I'm particularly fond of. These are great. Glam rock kind of situation. Got lots of them. Still buy them on the RealReal and Vestiaire and those sites. You're probably wondering about these. Years ago, we did a marketing thing for the holidays at Barney's where I was dressed up as the cranky elf, and I went around asking people what they wanted for the holidays, and then the cranky elf would like get it for them, and I was always very impatient. That's why we call it the cranky elf, like, come on, hurry up, tell me what you want for the holidays. You can look at those videos on YouTube. They're quite silly, but they're actually weirdly effective. I just assumed you all knew about this gnome. Philippe Starck designed these, the great, incredible genius Philippe Starck, whose sensibility is so playful and so elastic that it allowed him to design these incredible gnome stools. And I'm mad for them. They came out years ago, but I think they're just so clever because they're irreverent and silly, but they're also weirdly chic. Where are we, Johnny?
We are in our bedroom. And I guess the main thing about it is that it's lavender. Right?
The other main thing about it is that guess who monopolizes the bed?
A certain somebody, the queen of the house. Oh. Yeah, it's lavender. And how would you describe the vibe of this room?
I think it's pretty trippy and fun and gorgeous and like super glamorous and more clubby. It's almost clubby.
It's it's kind of Paul Smith store vibes.
Yeah.
Because there's a mix of old and new. Like I think the Gothic mirror is something that we've had since Simon bought it when we first met, and it kind of has gone with us from house to house.
I bought it in Miami, took it to New York for 25 years, and now we've schlepped it back down here again. So yeah, that's very Paul Smithy.
Yeah, it adds a bit of like baronial splendor to the most modern spaces. Yes, there is a baronial vibe, and I think one of my favorite things, we have the ceramic dog.
This was a gift from Michael Kors. Yes, the incredible designer. Love him, and he has a great sense of humor, as exemplified by this gift.
And now this poodle stares at itself forevermore.
Terribly vain poodle.
Yeah, it's a very, very vain poodle. We love these Rougier lamps. These are vintage Rougier lamps from whenever they're from, 70s or 80s?
Yeah.
Very groovy, kind of a must, vintage Rougier.
They're like an incredible flower that's just plastic, but it looks so majestic and so brilliant.
And then there's this really groovy painting of Sly Stone that's done by one of my favorite painters of all time, Ed Paschke. And that was originally in the Playboy Mansion. I think it's from 1974. So it's a pretty great day when you wake up in the morning and have Sly Stone greeting you with a smile and a trippy purple outfit.
Yeah, good morning, Sly.
Good morning, Sly. And then there's this groovy Harajuku girl.
This is done by
Thomas Card.
Thomas Card, an old friend of mine who used to shoot a lot of cosmetics, and then he started shooting these very interesting fashion eccentrics in Tokyo. So yeah, so we say good morning, Sly, and then we say good morning, Tokyo fashion eccentric.
Yeah, and then we say hello to a bit of whatchamacallit.
This is the great Peggy Moffat, who's an iconic 60s model.
She's like the grooviest mod model, and she was an old
with
friend
the
of Simon's.
Yeah, Vidal Sassoon.
And I did this needlepoint pillow as an homage to Peggy Moffat.
The great Peggy.
And then this is one of my chairs that we upholstered in Joseph Frank upholstery, because I think no home is complete without a bit of Joseph Frank, always. And I think maybe the pièce de résistance is Simon. Simon's the pièce de résistance, and
So we were at the flea market when we first met, and there was this $10 bust of Michael Jackson, and we snatched it up. We've had it ever since. People think, oh, it's a Jeff Koons or something like that, but it was just plaster, and
Yeah.
we got it in the flea market.
Oh, and then the other pièce de résistance is...
Well, at Barney's, when stores open, store close, we would accumulate all these props and things, and then we'd have a sale. And I bought this at one of the Barney's sales, and it was brass, and it was destined for an Hermes boutique, but it didn't get there in time to be set into the floor. So we used it as a window prop for decades, and then I bought it at the prop sale.
Yeah, so like a little Hermes crest.
Beautifully made. That's all cut brass. It's incredible.
And it kind of looks perfect over this doorway. It's like almost reason enough to buy the house.
Come into the bathroom. Oh, look, Peggy Moffat's in here too.
So I'm trying to think of what the focus of this bathroom might be.
Is there any object that's dominating the space?
I can't really think of it. It's just sort of blah.
Like a sculptural
There should have been
bit
a focal
of
point.
madness, a focal point.
That's where we screwed up.
Oh, wait.
Oh, look, there is a focal point.
Where did you find this, Johnny? I can't remember.
My hero of heroes was Bjorn Windblad, the Danish ceramicist, who is just an incredible potter who made work that was both eccentric and chic and joyful and figural and fun.
And sort of folkloric.
Yeah, he made like folkloric chic and he made chic folkloric.
This is also Windblad.
Yeah, so this is like kind of a Windblad room.
Windblad.
And I found this at an antique store in Dallas. He had actually, I think, made this for Neiman Marcus or for a hotel in Dallas. And I just thought, like, I have just the spot for it and it will spark joy. And then, of course, she has peacock feathers in her head. And we wake up, we look at Sly Stone, we come look at the Windblad lady with her peacock
Say
feathers.
hey to Peggy.
Say hi to Peggy. And of course, Foxy Lady always, and it's a good morning always. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's like, it's as if she was made for this spot. We have big windows and we don't have curtains in here, so we have my Riviera mirrors that are just perfectly centered over the window, and I am a big fan of not being afraid to cover up windows when it works. So these are our mirrors, and there's our Windblad.
Come outside.
Come outside. So this is like the little patio off of our bathroom, which is a nifty reading nook. We have a lot of reading nooks. Luckily, we are both huge readers, so they do come in handy.
I can keep an eye on you when you're in the outdoor shower.
Yes, it's yeah, we can easily spy on guests taking an outdoor shower. So anybody who has the misfortune to be invited here, beware. You will be spied upon.
That wasn't intentional. I don't want you to think
Yeah, it was an
we're
accident.
unsavory.
And then this is where Simon comes out of an evening and does Tai Chi, which I find super embarrassing because I think Tai Chi looks ridiculous. And so sometimes I'll come out here and I'll find my husband and he's all like he'll be behind me and he's all like, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's doing Tai Chi. Mm-hmm. So hopefully no one can see. It's embarrassing. And it's a really cool view of our Kaufman House inspired pool.
I have to go up a bit on this one. There.
And yeah, it's
This
a great
is
hang.
strangely relaxing, and it feels great.
It does actually, doesn't it? Not that we do this when we're off camera.
Do try this at home.
Yeah, this is kind of just an unexpected little nook. I feel like Suzanne Summers. Thigh mastering.
Yeah.
It actually is kind of great.
And look, Florida, look at those gorgeous palm trees.
Isn't it crazy? Like again, Simon from rainy England, me from New Jersey, and now we have palm trees. Like I didn't see that coming. Here we are.
And bananas. Did you show them
yeah, I
the
showed them the
banana tree?
bananas. That to me is the most magical part of our life.
Yep.
the banana era. Yeah, we've entered we've entered our banana era.
Then we can do bicycling.
It's actually very pleasant.
Yeah, I think we've
I think-
invented a new
Fitness craze.
what should we call it? Wungling or tangling or something.
I think wungling.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like we could do this could double as an exercise video.
yeah.
It's the first episode
But then
of the
what would we
wungling.
sell? We'd have to sell wungling outfits.
I think
'cause
we could invent a signature shoe that
Yeah.
links. It could be two shoes that link together for wungling. This is a really tough workout, like Thigh
Yeah.
Master, Schmy Master.
It's a good thing I did Pilates this morning.
So welcome to our minty fresh guest bedroom.
Minty fresh with some flashes of yellow. How did you come up with this concept, Johnny?
I don't know, it just kind of felt like a bit of lemon sorbet, which I think is what Palm Beach should feel like. There is a lot of yellow in this house, and I think it is because it's like lemon sorbet for the soul. So this room is I guess the main feature is this gigantic Paul Evans 4-poster bed that we've had forever.
And we got in Florida years ago. I
Yeah,
think.
and now it's here. And I had this custom cover made, again, hand beaded by a genius artisan in India with just eyes all over it and an eye pillow. And then our friend Jean-Paul Philippe painted these two abstract eyes that hang over the bed. And yeah, there's just a lot of eyes looking at you in this room. And another Jean-Paul picture. He did the screen. And
My
yeah, it's-
contribution, I guess, is either side of the bed is a stack of Barbara Cartland romantic novels, which are almost unreadable but hilarious. If you're of a certain age and you remember Barbara Cartland, she was the Jackie Collins of the day. And then under this table is the head of Prince. And this is one of the relics from my era at Barney's. It was made by Martha King, a great sculptress who did these wonderful celebrity caricatures for Barney's. And there it is. And it was one of the things that I bought at one of the Barney's display sales and kept as a relic of my fabulous Barney's era.
Yeah,
Prince.
So I think if you were like a guest coming to stay with us, you'd be pretty stoked. You have a Paul Evans 4-poster bed. You have as much Barbara Cartland as you could possibly read in a weekend, and you have His Purple Highness, albeit decapitated, but there, which brings joy.
And you might even get this too
Yes.
into the bargain, no extra charge.
Oh. And you have a lot of eyes. So yeah, this is the guest room. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to be a potter and never thought that was a viable career choice. So I tried to work in the movie business, and I got fired from my first job for various reasons. I got fired from my second job for various reasons. And I got fired from my third job, and then I realized I was 27. I was broke. I was apparently unemployable. And I remembered that I always wanted to be a potter. And I thought, you know, the world is telling me that I'm not fit for purpose and I can't really be in the world as an employed person. I thought maybe I should just be a potter, and you know, at least I'll be able to express myself. And then my very benevolent parents, who had kind of been, you know, supporting me, though I was 27, said to me, like, you know, you went to Brown for college, like, you should either make a living with a job or sell a pot. And so through a friend of a friend, I found a connection at Barney's. They placed an order, and suddenly I went from being like a broke ass, unemployed and unemployable person to a potter who had a chance. And something switched overnight, and I became an animal and just started, like, I was in the studio 24 hours a day, more like 14 hours a day, truly, 7 days a week. And I started a cottage industry, and when I blasted into Simon's life, I was about a year into it, and I was just sort of this crazed, mad potter. And now here we are. I think if people were to see my life now, in which I have stores and I do decorating projects and make like a million different products, they would assume A, that I had a plan, or B, that I had a backer, or I don't know. People just assume things. The truth is, it's all been completely accidental. I've figured it out over the years, and everything I've done has been in the pursuit of my ability to be creative. And I know that sounds sort of Pollyannish and annoying, and if I were listening to myself, I would probably hate me, but it's true. That's kind of it. I'm an accidental.
That's a little harsh on yourself, Johnny. No one's going to hate you.
I'm an accidental entrepreneur, and I think one of the things that's really remarkable about both Slyman, as I affectionately call him, and myself is that we both have really just kind of pursued creative lives and have been extraordinarily lucky. Like, one can never overestimate the power of luck. So creative and
resilience.
lucky. And resilience. All right, so now let me tell you about the outside. We kind of wanted to balance a bunch of different things for the outside. I mean, the interesting thing is the house itself is this incredible 1940 Maurice Fatio house, and it kind of felt like a folly. We wanted to create a sense of place. We wanted it to reflect us, and so I guess I would say the outside vibe is sort of like Palm Beach meets Palm Springs meets English country, if that makes any sense. It doesn't, but let me explain. I guess, you know, Palm Beach, it has a sense of place. We are in Palm Beach. The Palm Springsiness, you know, is another palm that's near and dear to my heart. And I think you'll see it with some of the slightly more mid-century modern graphics, like we put in these groovy white pavers. There's just kind of a Palm Springs modernist vibe, and you especially see it in the pool, which is sort of a quote, in a funny way, of the iconic Kaufman House in Palm Springs. With that, I can't remember what the photograph is called, but the Slim Aarons Kaufman House photograph is sort of what inspired this pool area, with the lemon yellow umbrella, and you'll see some lemon yellow pads, like some lemon yellow cushions, and we just went very classic modern with Richard Schultz furniture, which never gets old. And a lot of my planters, like this groovy planter, which has kind of a Palm Springs vibe with the white and yellow. We want it to be very crisp and modern outside. And one of the biggest and most unexpected treats about living in Palm Beach is right here, bananas. What? Like, my husband Simon kind of grew up in grinding poverty in rainy England. I'm from a tiny farm town in the Northeast, and now we have bananas, bitch. Like, it's like, pinch me, I cannot believe I'm a person with bananas. These will be ripe in about a month, and then I will pivot from being a potter decorator to being a full-time banana bread manufacturer, because they'll all become ripe. I'll have like 100 bananas that I need to deal with, and I will basically like get on my bike and deliver banana breads to all the neighbors, whether they like it or not, because I have to deal with these bananas. But I just can't believe I have bananas. It's so cool. Moving right along, the bougainvillea hasn't taken yet, but eventually the bougainvillea will take over this whole part of the house. And, you know, even though the palette for the house outside is really just green, like, you know, we didn't do any like colors, we didn't even do flowers. It's just sort of a green mixed landscape. But there will be, you know, the fuchsia of bougainvillea, which is really cool. And in terms of the English landscaping vibe, it's kind of a strange thing, and people might not see it immediately, but when I think of English landscaping, I think of sort of wildness and mixed greenery, and not being overly manicured. And I think you kind of get that sense in the outside. It has a very jungly feel of really mixed plantings, which is really cool. And of course, gives a nod to my Simon's Englishness. And then this is my hang. The hanging chair here is like a super chill place just to sit and read, and I do Zoom calls, and run my business from here, and it just seems crazy, and I feel so #blessed that I get to be in this beautiful natural environment while talking to my colleagues and designing stuff, and it's just a wild reflection of how the world can be now, courtesy of technology. I can be in beautiful nature using technology to live my life. The umbrella, a simple umbrella, became like the anchor of our outside life. It's from Santa Barbara Umbrella Company, which is like the Rolls Royce of umbrellas. It's so great. And I had no idea how much it would what a strong presence it would have, but here it is, ever so present, and I cannot resist some lemon yellow. You'll see a lot of yellow on the outside of our house. Our outdoor shower is basically the only shower. I just shower in this incredible thing. It's called the Nordic Seashell, and it's this Norwegian company that makes this beautiful kind of Nautilus outdoor shower that's just so magical. And again, Simon from rainy England, me from tiny farm town, showering outside under a palm tree in Palm Beach. I cannot believe it. So one of the biggest transformations we did to this house is this bit. This is like, basically when we got to the house, it was sort of this little tiny, like kind of back alley sliver that was kind of just nothing was going on here. There was almost like dirt. And so we turned it into what we call Lemon Alley. Don't ask me why, I guess we use a lot of yellow. And what's really cool about it is we were inspired by Palm Beach itself. On Worth Avenue in Palm Beach, there's these very famous little things called villas, which almost feel like Italian little alleys that are very like ornate, and they're kind of one of the anchoring elements of Palm Beach. So we were inspired to create this little sliver and make it very livable. So we have our outdoor dining happens here in Lemon Alley with simple string lights that kind of just give it a low-key, twinkly vibe. Great. We have dinner parties here all the time, which is so nice. These pots, which are my new favorite pots of mine, not that I play favorites, but are these cobalt animals that have this unbelievably beautiful blue glaze. And so I rushed to my studio and made these incredible kind of modernist sculptures in this really electric cobalt. And so they have pride of place on the table in Lemon Alley, and I love how cobalt and lemon yellow work together. This is kind of where we set up buffets for dinner, so it's sort of between the dining table and the kitchen. So yeah, it's like a very casual buffet kind of a situation here, and I love Lemon Alley is one of my favorite things about the house, because we took what was just a tiny sort of forgotten sliver and turned it into this kind of magical little place that we use all the time and absolutely love. I cook, Simon cleans. Before the pandemic, I was kind of just like, you know, a normal urban guy. I was just working all the time. But during the pandemic, I basically became a prairie woman. If someone says to me, like on a plane, oh, what do you do? I basically just say I'm a homemaker, because I'm a homemaker. I cook all the meals for my Simon. I live to like tidy the house and like make the bed. It's actually been incredible being a homemaker. I'm like this far away from basically darning Simon's socks. Like it is trad wife o'clock up in this bitch.
I love the fact that it always feels very upbeat and positive and glamorous. So even on a gloomy, rainy, thundery day, it always feels like this little eccentric hideaway. It's gorgeous. And people do walk in and say, boy, you did this just for you.
Simon's written how many books? 10? And
basically Dostoevsky. No. Pop culture, fun, style, fashion-y.
10 books, but one of my favorite of his oeuvre is a book called Eccentric Glamour. And I think those two words, eccentric glamour, are exactly what I think life should be and what I think our house is. I think it's idiosyncratic and personal. Eccentric is about being idiosyncratic and personal. And glamour, I think, is a really, really difficult word to define. People throw it around willy-nilly, but no one really thinks about what it means. To me, glamour is about being memorable and confident, and I think really it's about a sense of swagger. So I think that this house captures the ethos of eccentric glamour. It's idiosyncratic and personal. It is riddled with swagger, and we kind of just dig it. Everything in here means something to us. Like, nothing in this house is here because it's just stuff. It's like I can look at every single object, piece of furniture, and it has a story, it has meaning. I think a lot of people just kind of like, a lot of things in people's houses are just stuff, and I have always sort of believed that everything you surround yourself with should trigger an emotion and should have some meaning, and I think we kind of did that. Off to the beach. So we're just going to the beach, which is like a 30-second walk from our house, and it's incredible. And Foxy goes in every day and gambles about, and it's her happiest place on earth.